All right, happy Friday, everybody. Brigadier General Matt Higer here. I will tell you that many of these town halls that we broadcast to you at 1 o'clock Pacific time every duty Friday are broadcast from the PA studios on main base at Edwards. And then we sit in a room that has a green screen. And then on that green screen, they can display all kinds of just awesome stuff, right? Great airplanes, great shots, great sunsets, you name it, right? Slides, you name it. Today, what's behind me is not a green screen. We're actually broadcasting to you today from Building 1600. If you know Edwards and you know anything about our mission or the history of the base, you know Building 1600. If you don't know it by name, but you've been on base a few times and you've ever been to a large banquet in a maintenance facility in a hangar, then you've been in 1600. And if you've watched any number of movies that have included Air Force Base and airplanes, you've probably seen it in the movies too. So you know this building, you know the history, you know the power, you know the importance to our national security, and you know the connection that this place has to our installation, our mission, and our community. But today's an exciting day. Today is the 27th of August, 2021, and I am here today because this gentleman sitting to my left, Nate Dixon, he's the director of the 412th Maintenance Squadron. So, Nate, I'm so glad you're here. I was on an immersion in the maintenance group about 18 months ago when I first took my current job. And we were literally in this shop, like one of Nate's shops, literally in this shop in the building. And I said, hey, Nate, what do you think the chances are that we could build a partnership between the high school and high school students that work at Edwards at the center of the aerospace testing universe and your shop as a way to expose them and potentially even build something resembling we can't call it an intern program, but something that would be a pipeline or exposure to graduate from high school and immediately come work here as part of the 1,600 member strong maintenance group. And Nate said, hey boss, I think we can do that. So today is the culmination of his efforts. It wasn't even really my vision. I was just kind of asking a random question. Nate pulled it off, and we're here to announce that as of this fall, the Desert Junior Senior High School has a partnership with Nate's Squadron and the 412th Maintenance Group and the 412th Test Wing on something that is, I think, unique to the nation and maybe even unique to the Western world. So Nate, you took my vision, you ran with it. Over to you to brag on your team, and if you don't brag on yourself a little bit, I'm gonna. So you got to do a little bit in there. Go ahead.
Yes, all right. Well, thank you, sir. I am just ecstatic. You gave us the challenge, the opportunity, and while we have partnerships with other organizations in the community, this gave us the opportunity to bring our local high school into the mix. We have a lot of technical type positions that we primarily hire people out of who were trained by the military, but we have other positions that we grow our own, so to speak. We work in a very, very competitive hiring market, and this gave us the opportunity to partner with the school on the installation and train up, because not everyone goes directly from high school to college. And this gives them a familiarization with the aerospace industry. So I asked Mr. Jeremy Van Noorden, our fabrication flight chief, if he would assemble a team and put together a program that would provide familiarization with some of our back shop activities, specifically in this case, aircraft structural maintenance and metals technology. So an individual in high school at Desert will have the opportunity to spend a semester, 4 people in aircraft structural maintenance, 4 people in metals technology for approximately a semester, and then we would swap them out. They would switch shops. When all is said and done, we would provide them with a certificate of completion in conjunction with the high school that would actually provide information that could go into a resume so they can apply for one of our potentially open positions. So that provides us an opportunity to familiarize the individuals at Desert High with what we do, bring them into the aerospace community, and then offer them an opportunity for employment thereafter. We have put that program together and are happy to say with the opening of this school season that we will be able to implement that. We're in the process of identifying the students in conjunction with the counselors at the high school, and we're really proud of it. But I want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Jeremy Van Norden and his team, Tech Sergeant Vaughn, Sergeant Jacobs, Mr. Owens, for actually putting together what we'll call the curriculum to make sure that people, when they leave the program, they have some technical skills that they can carry with them. In addition to that, we worked with Mr. Campbell now, the school principal. We worked with our maintenance training organization to make sure that we were doing things right, and that who's produced the certificate that they'll receive, and our STEM coordinator, whom you'll hear from shortly. So with those shout outs, I would like to say that on the, I think around the first week or so, sir, of September, we will actually have the students over. We'll invite you over to actually meet those students.
Yeah, Nate, I'm looking forward to that event, just like the one here today. A couple things. So I was so excited about the real backdrop and to be in Building 1600 that I forgot to make my my early minute announcement. So, team, if you could call up the banner there. This is the town hall. There's always something. There are often things that I want to specifically talk to or focus or announce, and that's why we're having this discussion and in this location. But trust me, we will have ample time to get to all of your questions, comments, insertions, or whatever else you want to get to us or try to get from us. And as always, the number is 707-412-8922. And that's area code 707, kind of like the airplane. 412 and 8922 is TWCC. If you have a hard time remembering the numbers, then maybe the big Boeing airplane and the test wing CC will help be the reminder there. Off camera right now, in case you're wondering, oh, it's another one without Chief. No, she's here too. So Chief Ward-Swanigan is here with us today. She'll be on camera here shortly. She's the one that's compiling your questions and communicating via that text line. So if you got questions, comments, anything that you want to get from us on any topic, get it to her, including this topic. So I want to foot stomp that this is a space available. It's space available, but it is a limited number, and it is an actual course that students will receive credit for in addition to actual skills at the high school. Nate, I want to make sure I heard you right. 4 students in one cohort and 4 students in another cohort for a total of 8 students per semester. Did I get those numbers right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is correct.
And Nate already kind of introduced the next person that I am literally proud to be sitting here. It's not even a stage, Mr. Campbell. We're actually on the floor. Like, this is the ultimate shop floor. In junior high, I did wood shop, but I never had a chance to do this. And this ain't make-believe metalworking shop. This is shop for real. And things they make here fly and test everything that we see. So, Mr. Ed Campbell, the principal at Desert Junior Senior High School, welcome. Welcome to yet another town hall. I'm glad to be sitting on camera with you today, and welcome to the community. So, your initial thoughts on this partnership and the demand signal that we're going to see out of students for this?
Oh, no, this is a huge leap for our program. It's the cohort that we need to go with. The education is one piece in the classroom, but when we can apply that education the way it's going to be applied here, that's the real key to this program. It's not just learning the book stuff, that's important, but it's actually getting out and doing the real, true hands-on. That's what will qualify our students to be able to gain employment in these fields beyond high school.
Yeah, and the one of the things that Colonel Gordon talks about it all the time, but and this is not belittling to you or anything else in the school districts here, but Colonel Gordon often says, "Hey, youngin' or person or mentee or even parent or more seasoned person, don't let school get in the way of your education." And I like that phrase. I love school, right? I learned a lot there, but I find places where academic meet reality in the form of a lab to be the places where I learned the most. For example, the most recent school I've been a part of, both as on the cadre of at Test Pilot School, we use the airplanes as the lab. We do academics in the class, we do data, we do test planning, and then we go execute in the jets. And then we come back and do data reduction. So there's a symbiotic learning relationship when you can do that, and it absolutely applies to what your students will be able to learn in this place. But I'm gonna lead you on this next one a little bit. But if they're interested in aircraft maintenance, that's not the only thing you intend to roll out in the next little while. So what else do you have in store for these lucky students at Desert Junior Senior High?
Well, we're looking at a lot of different things. We'll make sure we continue with the robotics program there. Also, flight simulator. We're talking about bringing one of those on, or maybe more, so that students could work towards their licensure in that particular field. And of course, I don't want to discontinue the drone program. And more importantly, maybe than all that, is how do we marry with our JROTC program? We think that's symbiotic and something that we need to be doing. So, but the great thing about all this is it all ties back to STEM. The math and the science implications are innumerable. And so I think the more doors that we open, the better off our students will be, the better the choices they can make, and the more competitive they can be upon leaving high school.
Yeah, I loud and clear, and you just rattled off 3 more than I could have gotten off out of memory. I heard you say in I think it was a previous broadcast, or maybe it was on my tour of the schools recently, that not immediately, but in the not too distant future, we're going to start tracking students toward A&P licensure, or at least the prerequisites to get there. Is that still a semester or 2 away? And what's the prospect looking for like that?
So the rollout over time will be this. This year we're more of an introductory mode. And fortunate enough, because of Mr. Van Orn's reaching out to us, to be able to do the job shadowing. So that's something we didn't anticipate right away. We were hoping for a partnership with the base, of course, but we didn't think it would happen in the first few months. So that was a huge win. Next year, when we move into the permanent structure that we'll be in, we'll start with our introduction. CTE pathway has 3 pieces: introduction, concentrator, and capstone. Capstone is kind of a culminating project. And so we'll run the students through those 3, and upon completion of the capstone, they should be in a position to get their licensure and their certification. More importantly, we're going to be filing, hopefully in January, we'll be filing so that we'll have FAA certification on top of it. So it's not just one little piece, it's a bunch of pieces that will all make the program, I think, very solid, and the kids that come out of it very marketable. That would be my hope.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm super excited about is, as many of you know, and I believe all of you have, are at least partially aware, the entirety of the MURAC Joint Unified Schools that are on the installation are going to be no older than 1 year old as of next summer. And so we'll have just a little more than 1 year in the existing Branch and Bailey schools, and there'll be a no kidding. I don't know when the ribbon cutting ceremony is going to be yet, but it'll be sometime. My guess is over the summer, because fall of 2022 they're going to be in a brand new facility at Desert Junior Senior High, and that will open up a lot of these capabilities for classes that are freshmen and maybe even sophomores. I would assume enough time to get through the traps there to graduate with some really good marketable skills.
Theoretically, a sophomore next year could start in the program at the introductory level and complete the 3 years of requirements, including the capstone. And yes, absolutely. And they'd also be able to pursue education further if they wanted to in that area through Antelope Valley College. Or join the military and take the skills they learned in that program right straight on into the Air Force.
Yeah, so oftentimes in these broadcasts, we actually do coordinate a little bit of talking points before with the guests. I can, and Ed can support me on this. Ed and I literally have coordinated 0 talking points for this meeting, right? 0.
That is absolutely correct.
That is
sir.
absolutely true. The thing, and the reason that I highlight that is what he just said in the coordination of opportunity that is uniquely available only at Edwards Air Force Base in the United States, and again, probably in the Western world, of having the ability to grow up near here or be a military dependent or child and live here and immediately graduate with 3 or 4 different paths is fantastic. We talked about partnering with Maintenance Group and working on basic skills to potentially become a maintenance technician right out of high school. We talked about junior ROTC and potentially moving on to senior ROTC. We talked about FAA licensure as an airframe and power plant mechanic. But the other thing that you can pile on top of that is partnership in the high school with AV College and with Saracosa Community College. Right? There's having advanced classes to get you ahead in your bachelor's degree is readily available now at Desert, and will only become more so as we have new facilities and a higher student load. So I'm also excited about that.
No, we see that as a possibility. My goal is to rework our whole master schedule approach so that our students are more competitive as they graduate high school, so that so that they're able to get into the college that they want to get into. But to do that, you have to make the program. You have to start out with your 7th graders and run them all the way through. This is our honors program. If you follow this pathway, then this is where you'll be. Same thing with A&P, same thing with anything else that we do. But the key is to understand, to make them more competitive, we have to raise the bar.
Yeah, I agree, and I couldn't be more proud to be your partner and support of the Desert Junior Senior High School and literally the Muroc Joint Unified School District that's on the installation. A lot of folks assume, and you and your boss Kevin talk about this a lot. I know you talk to my maintenance group, You will talk to my maintenance group commander a lot, but you also talk to my mission support group commander Jason Harris a lot. And that we are here to support you, and you are a mission partner for us on this space, and we truly treat you that way, and we want to continue partnering with you and leading the way. I tell you, the folks, when there are things that I move along and observe, especially the last few weeks, few months, that indicate to me we're trending in a very, very good direction. I hosted a meeting of all 6 State of California Department of the Air Force installations. So 2 Space Force, I'll put them in loosely bases, but a garrison and a Space Force base, a reserve installation, and 3 Air Force active duty installations. And following that meeting, we did a tour of the campus, the 2 elementary schools, and the Vandenberg team said to us, "You guys do what? How can we get some of that?" And so the partnering and the leadership that we're demonstrating here at Edwards with Muroc Joint Unified is really the envy of the other Air Force installations in the state. And I think it portends an extremely optimistic and bright future for not just the schools, but the students that have the privilege of living and working at the center of the aerospace testing universe. So before I let these guys get back to their real work, Chief, any questions for the team assembled here, this august body that I am surrounded by?
Actually, there is one question related to the topic. So you talked a little bit about how, transitioning from high school to college and the opportunities that are available. The question is, are there any opportunities that currently exist for college students that are in the local colleges to be able to get in on the goodness that you guys are offering for the high school students?
Yeah, so I guess, so I'm going to make it personal, right? Somebody that's already graduated, is there any way that we can get some of this goodness ourselves? Because I'll be really blunt. If I were an airman, or maybe I were even, an installation commander, I would be very interested in working on my A&P here too. I know that's not your primary charter, but if there's an option either in the maintenance group or in at the school that we could partner and potentially look at that growth for the larger community, that'd be really cool. Now, not our primary, but what are your thoughts on that, Ed?
I do think there are implications for adult education possibilities down the road once we get established with what we're doing. So I do think that that's a possibility. The other thing I can say right now is AVC has one of the best A&P programs that I've ever seen. We toured it before we started talking about how we were going to set up our building at Desert Junior Senior. So I would say that's another possibility. At this point in time, where we're headed, I certainly don't want to speak for Superintendent Cordes or any of his cabinet, but I can see the implications of adult education down the road for people.
Thanks, Ed. Nate, anything you want to pile on that? And then, this is a topic I could, I'll say, brag on or talk about for a lot of time. But I'm clearly fired up, and I'm genuinely excited about the opportunities. And sometimes, gosh, if I could only be 16 again.
Yes, sir.
Right. So Nate, what are your thoughts on that question from the viewer?
We're actually already partnered with AV in a couple of ways. Ms. Michelle Shibata, who is our maintenance training division chief, sits on the A&P board with AV College. Mr. Van Norton has actually hired a number of their aircraft structural maintenance program. They have one there, and we've hired a number of entry-level personnel, members of that, graduates from that course, we actually have one staff now. So that provides a recruiting opportunity at both the high school and at the post-secondary level.
I love it, right? And the fact we got 2 community colleges, one just to our north and one just to our south, Saracosa Community College in Kern County, and ABC literally just south, where many of the members of Takata 2 live. Chief, any more questions for these two community leaders before I say have a great weekend to them?
No, sir, not at the moment. There's nothing else related to the topic, at least.
Okay,
But,
so what I'm going to do is, again, Nate, congratulations, brother. This is huge, right? It's huge for the students, it's huge for the maintenance group, and it's huge for us. There are a lot of high schools around the nation that have a lot of interesting things, but I'd be hard pressed to come up with something better than what we are literally sitting in and what we're watching about to launch for the first time. So I'm impressed. I'm not surprised. You deliver home runs for me reliably. You better be careful. I'm gonna expect nothing less here soon. But thanks, and thank you to the team that supported you through this effort. Mr. Campbell, welcome to the team. Welcome to the leadership team on the installation. It's nice to get to meet you in person finally. Know that I am one of your biggest fans and biggest supporters, and I'm sure Kevin has told you too. I'm a demanding customer, but I do that because I believe that we have a synergistic relationship to move forward on. I am also really privileged to have folks that I work with, to include those that directly work for me that are alums of your school. So the Commandant of the United States Air Force Test Pilot School right now, Colonel Sabrina Pabon, is a Desert High graduate. And so when people tell me, or I hear, I don't want to go to desert, I'd like to have I'd like to do this, or I'd like to do that, I go, hey, let me introduce you to somebody. Let's go talk to her. I will not talk a lot about her undergraduate institution for reasons that you may or may not know, but that's okay. But it was a reputable one. She's been an officer for 20 plus years, and she's knocking out of the park. And she is not unique in the graduates of Desert High. Not a graduate, but someone that has attended Desert High School is my boss. So Major General Evan Durteen attended part of his high school years here at Desert when his dad was on active duty stationed here. He went to the United States Air Force Academy, and after that, he's done okay, right? I mean, 2-star, that's not bad in the average for Desert High. So I guess my point is, in highlighting that, you are the leader of an institution that, while it is small, it has high impact on the nation, both because of the caliber of the students we get here, but also because of the educational opportunities and, frankly, the motivational opportunities that are available only in this place, in your schools, on this installation. So welcome to the team. I'm excited you're here. Any parting shots before I say have a great weekend?
No, I really appreciate that. I lived in the Valley almost my entire life. And to be able to be principal at Desert Junior Senior High School is one of the only places I would have came this late in my career to be principal. So I'm exactly happy to be here. But more importantly, I understand the path that we're trying to walk down. The path doesn't have to be easy. And if you want to be great, it doesn't have to be easy. In fact, it shouldn't be easy. And so my question to my staff is going to continue to be, how great do you want to be? How great do we want to make this high school?
And we got all the material here to do just that. The students, the instructors, we will soon have a facility, and we have tremendous partnerships available. So thanks for being on that partnership team.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great Friday, you two. While these two are changing out with 2 more awesome folks on camera here, I want to highlight one thing I've been remiss on. You've heard us say the phrase A and P a lot, and that is the letter A, the sign and the letter P, and it stands for airframe and power plant. It's a mechanic. It's a license from the FAA that you are licensed to do airframe work, and you are licensed to do power plant work, and you can specialize in different types of airframes and different types of engines. But it's a certification from the Federal Aviation Administration. It is training, it's skills, it's value, and it'll give you a huge leg up if you enter the military and want to do aircraft maintenance, or if you want to go out and work for a civilian aircraft company, or you want to make airplanes. That's a place that a lot of folks that have A&P licenses. For example, I remember a tour at Robinson Helicopter down in Orange County a couple years back, and I was walking the floor where they make R-22s, R-44s, and they were just about to launch the R-66. And every person I talked to on the floor said that the longest item to get before they could apply to work at Robinson, which was a great place to work, was to get their A&P license. And students at Desert High will be able to graduate from high school and have that license available to apply to places like Robinson. So it's a tremendous opportunity. Now, if we could open up, I have another great guest that I love sharing time with. I caught her off guard when I said, "Hey, you're going to be on camera with me today," but she clearly dressed the part. You must have known this morning. Miss Alita Van Hoy. She's she's our STEM coordinator. And one of the reasons that I asked her to come on camera with me today is I want to brag on STEM. Edwards is leading the Air Force. Actually, it's leading the Department of the Air Force, and the Department of the Air Force leads the Department of Defense in STEM. So STEM, as many of you know, science, technology, engineering, and math. I are an engineer, right? I'm a geek. I'm a certified geek. And therefore, I really dive into the M a lot. In fact, math, as Alita and I talk about, math was my first language. And I'm clearly an E. I've got 2 degrees in engineering. And so that gets a lot of the attention. Science is a basis for engineering, and math is a language of science. So, it kind of enters my lexicon a little bit. But the tech part is really what I want to talk about or show that we have some excellent synergy available here at Edwards on. And the tech part are technical jobs and technical things and technical skills that aren't necessarily engineering. And what we have here in this facility that we're sitting in the program that Nate Dixon and the team at Desert Junior Senior High kicked off is a huge amplifier to the T in STEM. But there are other things that we have that are launching or soon to be had in STEM. And Alita has a long list of things that you do. And folks, you're looking at the entire shop. And you act like you're a team of 10 sometimes. I don't know how you do it. I thank you for all that. And make sure your better half knows that I appreciate all the extra time you devote to us and to the students and to the community. But so if there's one thing in the STEM program beyond what we're sitting in, the Desert Junior High partnership, what would that one thing be that you'd want to advertise to the larger Edwards community today?
Well, the first thing that I want to mention is that even though it seems like I'm a one-person show, I'm really not. It's truly our amazing volunteers here on base that make all the difference in the world, because they are the ones that make all these things happen. I'm very excited to share with you and all our friends today that we are going to have a virtual STEM event the week of the 18th through the 22nd of October 2021, and we're very excited about it. We will have many subject matter experts sharing their life experience, their careers, and answering questions from students. So all of the surrounding schools districts are able to sign up online. So keep tuning into the STEM website. Look out for the link. It should be up sometime mid-September so that people can start signing up. This is going to be an amazing event because we have partnered up with NASA Armstrong, the Air Force Research Laboratory, and the NASA and the Navy STEM team as well. But I'm very excited that the 412 Test Wing is hosting it here.
Yeah, so I didn't imply, Alita, that you do everything all the time by yourself, but boy, you are a low-density, high-demand shop, a low-density, high-demand person, and your leadership is tremendous. Let me foot stomp that because there's so much we do and so much emphasis on STEM here, your participation and your value, like you're the viewer as a volunteer. And if you say, whoa, I'm not a test pilot, or I'm not a graduate of test pilot school, or I don't have an advanced degree in education or mathematics, I don't know how I would be any value. That's not true, right? All of us live, eat, breathe, sleep, something resembling STEM. Even if you don't consider yourself a STEM person, you are in a world that is in part, and in some cases mostly because of those things. And so if there's a little bit more you want to learn about, I've often said to folks, you don't really know it until you can teach it, right? I mean, I learned a lot about math when I was a tutor for a freshman when I was a junior and senior in college. And so if you are interested in being a volunteer and partnering with Alita in our partnering programs, go ahead and show us both. Folks much rather, so this is her. I want to brag on her. One of the things that we do in STEM and one of the volunteer opportunities is we do math tutoring with the schools here. It's currently targeting grade school kids. And so there are opportunities to volunteer from that level of proficiency all the way up to working with us post post-secondary. So great stuff. Alita, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you for everything you do. That week she's talking about for STEM this year, that is not going to be modeled exactly after the hybrid air show work we did last year, but we're gonna lean on what we learned, and it'll be something, I'll say, just as inspiring, but it'll be a very different venue this year. And then get pumped, right? Because 2022, we're going to have another STEM week building into an awesome 75th anniversary air show in the fall, October actually, of 2022. So just one more rep before that big event. So Alita, thanks.
Thank you very much for everything. And just so that you know, you're absolutely right. Everything will be different for this virtual event because we're also including professional development opportunities for teachers who can earn a $200 stipend or supplies for their classrooms and things like that. So there's all sorts of wonderful things that are coming forth. So thank you very much
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
everything,
And
General
so
Higer.
your get off the stage, one last item, your get off the stage is, if they want to learn more about Edwards STEM or STEM at Edwards, how do they get to that website?
So if you go into the Air Force website, up at the top, there's an education link, and under that link, there's a STEM link. And you will
the Edwards main page.
Yes, the Edwards main page.
www.edwards.af.mil, which I know you all go to all the time to look at all my COVID stuff. But there's a lot more there than just COVID.
Yes.
So
And my
education on the
contact
top
is-
link.
Yes, and my contact info's in there under the STEM program.
Awesome. So thanks, Alita. Edwards.af.mil. On the top, quick education drop down, you'll see STEM. Here we go. We got a demo. I love PA. I love me some PA. You guys and gals are phenomenal, right? So Edwards Air Force Base homepage, education drop down, you hit STEM. You move over to that and go. So, Alita, there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
All right. Joining me on camera, the person you've all been waiting for, Chief Denisha Ward-Swanigan. Chief, interesting. Nothing going on in the world or on the base this week. So I think we'll just sit here for the next 20 minutes and, I don't know, try to be comedians or something along those lines. Or your phone's been burning up. Anything you want to start with a preamble, or you want to get right into what's ringing in?
I think you're right, boss. There's, on the contrary, a lot going on this week. As we've sat through many sessions, some together and some I've had the opportunity to just kind of go out on my own and get some feedback. So I don't want to prolong this any longer than everybody's wanting. So let me get right into it if we can.
Absolutely. So big world events happening. Big world events that have very personal and local impacts. OAR is the operation. That's the repatriation of folks from Afghanistan, or the refugee bed down from Afghanistan. Edwards and Air Force Material Command are leading in that. Air Force Material Command itself, a couple of our sister or sibling NAF equivalent centers are leading in that. So Air Force IMSC is in big lead for the Air Force on that. Air Force Material Command has sourced airmen from all over the command to go to Joint Base JBLM, Lewis McGuire Dix, right? And they are working there in support of the operation. So it isn't just happening at Kabul International Airport. It's happening at intermediary bases between there and CONUS, and it's absolutely happening in CONUS too. So that is a big item that Team Edwards and the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe has supported in the last week. I will tell you that while these circumstances driving this awesome demonstration of air power are potentially hard to watch and hard to think about, and are eliciting some serious emotions from those of us that have served in Afghanistan, it is inspiring to watch what air power is doing. And air power isn't always bombs, rockets, fighters, bombers, right? Sometimes it's a C-17 or it's a C-130 or it's the tanker that gave them the gas to get there unrefueled, to be able to do it in one flight when they would have done two. I need everyone hearing me and everyone that's going to interface with an airman at Edwards to know that air power doesn't exist without the 412 test wing, and that air power doesn't exist without you. And so your work, and in some cases, many of your career's work, and maybe even your life's work, is on display for the world to see every time one of those airframes rescues somebody or brings Americans back to safety from Kabul International Airport. You have a lot to be proud of in this, and that air bridge, I think in history, is going to rank maybe second only to the Berlin airlift, and depending on how we measure, might even exceed it. And that is a large part of what we have contributed in a large part to the air power on display as we get in and out of that airfield and bring tens of thousands. I guess we tripped 100,000 people today in that effort. So tremendously important and a lot to be proud of.
So, sir, on that note, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. If someone,
shout out to the first sergeants who are partnering with other shirt councils across the globe, and in particular Ramstein. They are promoting a care package drive. So you can go out to any of the Edwards social media sites and see how you can contribute to that effort to help with the OAR effort. And that's a big lift as well.
It is a big lift. It's something that we're doing on the home front to help folks that are at K-Town in Kaiserslautern at Ramstein Air Base and our German partners at that location with a lot of refugees. So if you are if you're a part of that, thank you. If you're interested in helping, get a hold of a first sergeant. And if you're not, if you don't know how to do that, then you can text in your request, your contact information, and we'll get it back to you. But basically, we're collecting supplies and building care packages to send to refugee families that find themselves at Ramstein right now, with thousands of more to arrive in the next few days and weeks. All right. Gosh, I can't remember. There was something else that was a big event. Oh, yes. The Secretary of Defense on Monday said COVID vaccines mandatory. On Monday, he signed it late Monday. It was distributed. I think it hung on the Department of Defense website late Monday, the 24th. But I saw it early Tuesday morning, the 25th of August, and it was effectively his order: go. Right. That was an augmentation order to the I'll say in the deployment lane we would call it a prepare to deploy order that we had, or a get ready order that he delivered on August 9th. And on August 9th, he said vaccines are going to be mandatory for active duty members, and they're going to be mandatory when the first of one of these two events happens. Either a vaccine gets full licensure, or mid-September eclipses, and at that point, he had intended to request a waiver from the president. Well, one of those two events happened, and it happened this week. It was the full licensure of the Pfizer vaccine. It does have a brand name, but it's the same vaccine. There's only a labeling difference between the two. And now we have an order from the SecDef to move out on that. I know, and I haven't looked at her phone or seen I know there's a lot ringing in on that topic here. And if there isn't, I'm happy to engage or talk to you on what we're experiencing and what we're observing, and to the extent that I can, my thoughts on the topics. Before we get to the questions or inputs, one of the things that's really important for me to emphasize is that this is a Secretary of Defense order. It is not an order that any of us are taking lightly or blindly, but it's a completely legal order, and it is designed to protect medical readiness, and the order is designed to protect the health and safety of the individual that receives the vaccine, and also everyone that they live and work with. And it also is it's not the first time that we have max vaccinated a force. Right? In fact, the max vaccinations of the U.S. military date back to before we were a country, when General George Washington immunized for smallpox his entire force. And I'm just thinking that in the mid-1770s, it was a little less efficient and maybe even a little less sterile than what we have available today. But so vaccinations of our combat forces are not new in this country, and they're certainly not new to any of us in service. Last time I checked, there are 9 minimum vaccinations you have to have for entry in service. And depending on where you've deployed and what your job is, that list can go well over 15. In fact, I think the count that Chief Bass advertised was 17 vaccinations or series of vaccinations. So yellow fever, Hep A, Hep B, and other things like that are mandatory. And this is just the latest on that list. So it's certainly not unprecedented, and it is not new. What's new is that the emergency use authorization is now full licensure. And based on that full licensure, the Secretary of Defense has said, please go vaccinate. Please ensure that all military members are vaccinated against COVID. There are 3 words in that order that I really resonate on when I talk to airmen and guardians about this. When I talk to the senior enlisted leaders, I talk to the members, their commanders, and their directors. And the 3 words in the SecDef order are professionalism, urgency, and compassion. And I think if you comply with the SecDef's intent, and you apply professionalism, and you apply a sense of urgency, and we remain compassionate in how we do that, we're going to hit all the other requirements and do the right thing for all the right reasons. And those are 3 important things that I'd take on this. So with that, Chief, has anything rung in?
Well, as a matter of fact, there has been some things coming in. So to start off, there's a fear of a rising concern about mandatory vaccinations and the consequences of refusing it. Can you speak to what folks can expect if they should happen to refuse to get vaccinated?
Yeah, so one of the things that it's really important to me to do is allow, well, candidly, like I'm being allowed and like Chief is being allowed, our commanders, so in Chief's case, in my case, the Air Force Test Center commander is allowing us to be a command team at the installation. And in turn, I am allowing, encouraging, expecting the unit commanders to be unit commanders. And if you are a unit director like Mr. Dixon, who is here, he is a unit director, and he does have command authority, not G-Series order command authority like a military commander would, but he does have the authority to give a legal order and a legal binding order based on his position of his subordinate military members. And so I guess one of the things that I think that person writing in wants to know is, have I directed if they refuse, then you must do? And the answer to that question is, what have I directed subordinate commanders to do if their members refuse the legal order? I have not told them or handcuffed them or told them I expect anything. They're subordinate commanders. They're commanders and they're directors in their own right. They have advisors. They have first sergeants. They have senior enlisted leaders. They have legal advisors. They have chaplain advisors. They have medical advisors. And they have their leadership teams to advise them on what the left and right boundaries are given the facts and circumstances in each and every case. It is really important for all of us to remember that there's never a blanket, right? There's never a 100% gonna run for this no matter what, right? I know I am 100% confident that every single subordinate commander and director that works for me, and I suspect the same thing applies for all of our mission partners here, they're going to look at each case and handle each airman, guardian, and in some cases, soldier, sailor, Marine too. They're going to look at each case and handle that case as it should be handled individually. For example, like any other topic where there's an order involved, a senior ranking officer, so we'll say a field grade officer, is often a very different leadership or different command scenario than someone that's a first-term airman. And those are different from somebody that is maybe a first lieutenant. And those are three are different from somebody that would be a senior NCO or even an NCO. So there's no rule set. There's no if-then statement that we've delivered. There are left and right boundaries, which are usually by law binding. But within those left and right boundaries, we are going to do the proper thing in all of these cases as and when they surface. That's a relatively generic response to that question, but I want to be really clear that I have not mandated, if you refuse the vaccine, then this exact thing will happen. I have not, I will not, and frankly, I cannot mandate that specific thing. And I have full faith and confidence that the subordinate commanders and directors are going to do what they need to do to max protect the health and safety of their force and ensure good order and discipline. And at its core, that's what we do as command teams at every echelon of command. So if that doesn't address it to the person that asked the question, please ask more. And Chief, any additional thoughts you want to pile on that, or something related in the text stream, I'll certainly take it.
That was all so far on that one, sir. Up next, in last week's Friday town hall, you said that Edwards was trending towards HPCon Delta based on the numbers. If that was the case, then why is the base only in HPCon Bravo?
So first of all, it's exciting that someone's watching 2 weeks in a row, right? And I don't think that person is alone. So I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad you're asking nuanced questions like that. So last week, I don't remember literally what I said, but the good news is that these are available for replay. So if you want to go find that snippet, you can go look at the question and the comment. The Department of Defense, the Office of the Secretary of Defense Personnel and Readiness, OSDP&R, on the order of maybe 6 to 10 months ago, issued guidance, not mandates, but guidance on what are the conditions that would warrant a change from HPCon Delta to Charlie, Charlie to Bravo, Bravo to Alpha, and Alpha to 0 or nothing. And that was the environment within which they issued that order. It was as a nation slid off the backside of the winter surge in winter of 2021, and that guidance was not binding. It was guidance. Conditions will resemble or conditions would be like. It was helpful, but it was not directive in nature. And that if your numbers are precisely, then you must. It was just it was guidance, and it properly allowed commander discretion to know their workforce, to know their counter-COVID practices, to know their vaccination rates, to know their mission, and to really understand their local community. And I think it was a good example of OSD PNR keeping the authority and the decision space in the field where it should be. Now, in that guidance, if you look at that guidance just from a numbers perspective, the COVID case rate per 100,000 people for Delta, we were on the precipice of that case rate. Cases per 100,000, and I believe it's a 7-day rolling average. One of the reasons why I am not going to look at that as binding is that often the denominator at Edwards specifically is not anywhere close to 100,000 people. So it would be kind of a tyranny of small numbers problem. If you only have 100 people and you have one COVID positive case, bang, that's a case rate that would justify HPCon Delta if you just use that blindly, which we don't. And that doesn't make sense. And so my comment last week was, if we just look at the raw numbers from the Edwards population and the case rate here, there's justification to go to a higher health protection condition level. The reason that we're not there is that I don't think we gain much, if anything, by going from Bravo straight to Delta. Because we can mitigate a lot of risk and still execute most, if not all, of our mission at the protections we're at now. If I think Delta's imminent, if we're going to have to go to Delta, and folks, we haven't been to Delta, I never want to be there, but Delta the gates are shut, the people that live on base are ordered to stay in their houses, the commissary is closed, the BX is closed, no place of work is up, the command post is running, the CAT, the UCCs, the GCCs are manned, and that's it. The fire department's manned, the ambulances are manned. There's nothing. It's like I don't know. It's severe, right? I mean, what I just described, I think all of you can imagine. That's Delta. I'm not ready to go there. I don't think the pandemic is. I don't think that our performance against the pandemic in this combat front requires us to consider in the near future that level of counter. Now, let me postulate a little bit. If we can't, as a species, get this virus under control and stop it from mutating, it is entirely likely, not possible, but entirely likely that the next mutation, so not Delta, but whatever the next name is going to make it a little bit harder for us. And so when that thing shows up, which it will, the question is not will it show up, it's just a when, will we be able to counter it in a tactical level fast enough, or will we have to go back to the non-pharmaceutical interventions like everybody go home, stay home, shut down mission, kind of like we did in March, April of 2020. So that's a long answer, but a lot of thought behind why we're not at Delta and why we remain at Bravo. The punchline to that answer is we're at Bravo because you have performed admirably and you continue to understand and respect this threat. And part of respecting that threat is using your smarts. If you go to the COVID page on edwards.af.mil, you'll see there's a sign hanging there. It's the www.af.mil, and then you click the coronavirus link, and on the right side of the page, there's a smarts poster. And be smart, right? The SMART are all non-pharmaceutical interventions. And there are things like, have a little bit more space, a little bit more airflow, things like that. And then the S in smarts is get your shots, right? It is a viable defense against and really our best counterpunch to the pandemic, but we got to do it at scale, and we have to do it in very large numbers for it to maximize its effectiveness. And not just protecting the individual, but also protecting the health and safety of everybody in the community, especially the health and safety of those that can't get vaccinated, like many adults that have their I can't remember the exact medical term, but contraindicated, I think is the term. I'm an engineer, not a doctor. But if vaccines are contraindicated for you, that's something that you can talk with about your healthcare provider. And if you can't get the vaccine, then the rest of us have to protect you by us getting the vaccine. And there's a whole other group of people that can't be vaccinated right now, and that's anyone 11 and under. And I don't know about you, Chief, but I'm pretty passionate about protecting those in our entire community, not just those on the base that are 11 and under. And that's one of the reasons why I think that using all your smarts, including the shots, is absolutely the right answer. And I'm proud that Edward is going to lead the way on that. So I hope that answers that viewer's question about if the numbers say we should be at Delta, why are we only at Bravo? Their guidance, and I certainly take that guidance. But we don't need to be there and still get some stuff done.
Yes, sir.
What's up next?
The next one is if one child is exposed to another child in the base CDC or annex, and they're directed by public health to quarantine and get a COVID test, why do they have to go off base? Is there any plan to allow dependents to be tested on base as opposed to just DOD only?
So what you're talking about is a scenario where there's a child enrolled at the CDC. So I'm asking the user. I want to understand your question precisely. The child that's enrolled in the CDC is not a TRICARE eligible person. That's what I'm taking out of the question. Because if you're a child that is TRICARE eligible, i.e. you're a TRICARE beneficiary, I'm not aware of any reason why you couldn't be COVID tested at the med group when they're running those tests. And maybe there's a phone a friend from the med group on, and they could chime in with that. But if I'm off on that, we'll post something and get that question.
Yeah, the word dependent leads me to believe they are.
Yeah. So the person that asked that question, give us some clarification. And if you've been nudged off base, I encourage you to talk to the med group. Call the nurse advice line or contact your PCM via email, or you can go to MHS Genesis, which is a great capability. So my med group commander will be happy that I'm giving MHS Genesis a plug here. You can go to MHS Genesis. And then there's a secure messaging capability in there that resembles email, but it's all within the MHS Genesis site. So you can talk about your personal health information, your PHI, and that of your dependents. And it just there's a link on there on the left side. I can picture it as clear as day, where it says "Contact my provider," and so you can hit that link and ask your provider a question. Hey, my child was exposed to someone that was COVID positive at the CDC. Where can I get them tested? And I will be surprised if the response you get back is that you have to go off base.
Okay, it looks like the child is not TRICARE eligible, so they have to.
Yeah, so if they're not TRICARE eligible, there may be an exception that we could do, but that's something that the CDC and the med group will have to work with you specifically. I encourage you, if you have a child enrolled in the CDC and the child is not TRICARE eligible, talk to whoever is your sponsor or your unit of affiliation here and try to work that through command channels at the first sergeant or senior enlisted leader or squadron commander level and see if there's a workaround we can get there. But generally speaking, testing is widely available in the community and it is available on base. We do have some excess capacity on base, but another interesting thing about testing on base for someone that would not be TRICARE eligible is that it's not easy to get results if you can't go to MHS Genesis as a TRICARE beneficiary and get that. So while you may be able to be tested on base, broadcasting the results or getting the results to you may be more problematic because our medics can't email it outside of the firewalls because it's your personal health information, and they will not, nor should they, send that information off outside of a secure domain where we can ensure your privacy and your health protection. So if that doesn't answer the question, then let us know and we'll try and get you a more precise answer. But that's the best I can do right now. Let me talk about CDC real fast. So like the school, CDC will continue to have a low rate. I'd prefer 0, but it's not going to be 0 for a while based on the prevalence of COVID in our community. A low rate of a child or maybe a provider in the CDC or at the school tests positive for COVID. Maybe they're symptomatic, maybe they were asymptomatic, but they're COVID positive. That has happened multiple occasions in the last 2 weeks. In all cases we have had good separation protocols present at the CDC, and the school has had very good protocols present as well. And the limitation on those that were required to quarantine and isolate, the limitation on those who were required to quarantine wasn't, the entire wing or multiple classes or entire grade. It was limited, and I think those protocols are things we're going to have to become proficient at. This is COVID is endemic. It's with us the rest of our human lives. It will continue to adapt and morph. And so these are the types of things that we'll just have to be better at. We'll have to maintain our proficiency at, and we'll just have to learn and adapt as teams and as teams of humans to minimize the impact to education and to minimize the impact to work schedules for those that are at CDC. So when you're impacted, not an if, the command teams, the CDC, the schools are all postured to minimize that impact to the best we can, but it's going to continue to happen. And all of us have a role to play to make sure it happens the smallest amount that we can. What you got next, Chief?
Up next, are there exceptions, such as medical conditions, that would allow a person to not get vaccinated, not have to get vaccinated?
So there are reasons why some of us don't have to comply with medical requirements. That conversation is a very precise and frankly very personal conversation that a member needs to have. And I assume the person asking the question is asking because they're active duty or because they're asking on behalf of a member on active duty. If a vaccine or any medical procedure, especially medical requirement, is contraindicated for you, that should be well documented in your medical records. And that's a conversation that you need to have with your PCM. And at that point, your PCM will do what is necessary to either document that, for example, in your shot records, and or notify your chain of command. I'm not a medical practitioner, never been a med tech, never been a doctor, never been a PA or a nurse. So beyond that, I'm just a user of that system. But that is the basics of how what would be known as a medical exemption to any procedure would be gained and documented for an individual member. One of the things to remember is that, so let's talk shots for a second. It is very reasonable that when you get an inoculation against something, and remember the reason that you get an inoculation is to generate some type of an immune response. And as you generate that immune response, your body will have a memory of that in your immune system. So the next time it sees something that resembles it, it will be quicker to act, ideally keep you from ever getting it, but in some cases, it will certainly reduce the intensity or the risk to you of that disease should you be exposed to it again. That has been the common thing with flu shots for my entire life. And I will tell you definitively, I know of multiple examples now of what are known as breakthrough infections for COVID, where the person, in fact, I was talking to somebody last night, and this person was in a high-risk category, primarily based on age, with no other major comorbidities. And I've also spoken to somebody that not age, upper end of the younger window, but had a comorbidity, actually a heart condition. And in both of those cases that I've spoken to, the people I've actually spoken to the last 7 to 10 days, when they had a little bit of a headache or a little bit of a stuffy nose or a cough, and they said, wait a minute, I'm not going to go to work. So good on you if you're sick and you don't go to work. Good on you. That's the requirement. Talk to your PCM and then go get a test. And in those two cases, they got tested, and sure enough, it came back detected for COVID. So they isolated for 10 days. But in both those cases, because they were fully vaccinated, it was less. The person that I talked to yesterday said it was less for me than a normal cold. And the other person that I spoke with about a week ago said it was it's kind of like an average cold. It was just a little bit annoying, but never worried about it. Neither one of them had shortness of breath. Neither one of them were even close to considering calling an ambulance or going to the emergency room. And frankly, folks, here's the huge benefit. Both of them knew that their chances of dying from COVID was effectively zero because they were fully vaccinated, even though they were in elevated risk and high-risk groups. So we're going to have breakthrough infections, but the vaccine is a way for your body to be prepared for that infection and fight back in a way quickly that minimizes its impact on you and the people that you work with. It may actually also reduce your infectiousness or the ability for you to spread it. So having said all that, when you get a COVID shot or you get a yellow fever shot, or in my case, when I got a shingles shot, you your body may have a response to that. I will tell you, full disclosure, when I got my first COVID shot in early February, late January, early February, a little bit of a headache, felt a little down the next day, didn't eat a whole lot, slept most of the day, had a very mild fever for that day. And so I got it on day 1. Day 2, I was just kind of meh, right? And on day 3, I woke up good to go. Time out later, I get my second shot. My body was ready for it because it had the benefit of the first. I got the second shot, and man, my immune system went to town, right? What I would call a severe headache, not take me to the hospital headache, an elevated fever because my body's having this really aggressive immune response. Not real hungry, didn't have an upset stomach, but those were typical responses. A lot of fatigue, muscle aches. That lasted a little bit more than a day with my second shot. But the whole time I'm observing this firsthand, I'm remembering what the doctor in the immunization clinic told me. The stronger your response to the second shot especially, the better immunity you'll have to the disease going forward. And that's a really, really good thing.
That's actually encouraging because that second dose really put me down.
Exactly, right, yeah. So folks, the quote-unquote side effects of a second COVID shot, they're known, they're expected, and actually you kind of want some of that, right? So that when you are exposed to it, you have some confidence that your body built the antibodies that it needed, and you'll be protected. I know that it's worked for me. I have been in not one, but 2 environments where had I not been vaccinated and had I not had the response to the vaccine that I did, I guaranteed I would have picked up COVID based on the duration and the intensity of my exposure. And in both cases, I didn't. So, if you got a shot today, you get a shot today or you got a shot yesterday, and you're feeling a little down the next 24 hours, that's your body doing what it should be doing, and that means the vaccine's working, and it's protecting you, and it might even be saving your life. And in 3 weeks, when you get your second shot, if it's a little bit more, that's also normal. In fact, it would be abnormal if you didn't feel anything. So that's kind of the way these work. Speaking of, let's talk about numbers real fast. So we have what I've termed Operation Max Vax going on right now. It's a local name. I like the way it rings, and it is our med group just turbocharged, getting as many people inoculated with their first shot as we can safely and efficiently do. They're at the Airmen and Family Readiness Center, just like they did when they initially set up the point of distribution in January. And yesterday, the first full day in the ANFRC, we delivered more than 250 initial first shots. That's 250 airmen and guardians and their families and their coworkers that are safer today than they were yesterday, that are safer next week and 2 weeks from now than they were 2 days ago. And when they get their second shot, so 5 weeks from yesterday, those 250, I think it was 58 airmen and guardians will be fully vaccinated. And that's 250 more people that we have to do our mission. That's 250 more people that I don't have to worry about ending up, I'm going to have a hard time talking through the next sentence here, that I don't have to worry about ending up in the ICU like we have right now. I am genuinely concerned about an active duty member that I know personally that is in intensive care, and that person is unvaccinated. I hope that person lives, but right now it's hope and prayer. It's not a lot of technology that is keeping him alive, and he will likely be permanently disabled because of the severity of his COVID infection if he lives. And that person has a family. And that person has a family at work. And he has friends and he has relatives. And so vaccinations and mandatory vaccinations are not because we can. They are because we should. And they're also protective of the person that receives the vaccine, right? I mean, how many times have we said it? I get my vaccine to protect me. I wear this to protect you. And there are other things I do to protect the folks around me, but the vaccine is to protect you and those that are closest with you first. So, I don't know. Lots of emotion, lots of passion, lots of topics are surfacing around this Max Vax right now. Chief, any others that or follow-ups? I'd be happy to address them.
We have a 2-part question. When going through the gate, should you have your mask on? And is there actually an Air Force ball this year? If so, is that a good idea based on the numbers trending the way that they are?
That's a great. So thanks for asking the questions, plural. I feel like I'm in a press briefing and I say, do you have a question? And they say yes, and then the immediate follow-up. I love it, right? I love it. So let me address the second one first. I love the innovation and I love the agility here of our team. And we actually, I'm sure many of you have seen the folks walk around in OCPs with the blue threads. So they call us the spicy brown threads, and we refer to them as the blue threads. I don't know if you've ever observed the Guardians and Airmen talking about each other that way, but I think it's kind of cool. So we got a team of Guardians and a team of Airmen that are putting together the Department of the Air Force celebration for this fall. The Air Force birthday, September, the Space Force birthday, early December. So they have 3 events that they're planning. There'll be an event close to the service, Air Force birthday, and there'll be an event that's close to the second birthday. So congratulations, you know, toddler kind of walking now. Second birthday of the United States Space Force in early December. And then they're trying to cut the difference on the calendar between the two and have a large blowout event in the kind of halfway between mid-September and early December. So those are the 3 events that they're doing for the Air Force, the Department of the Air Force birthday celebration. The big blowout, we hope to be something resembling a ball, but right now with the COVID trend lines we're at, I don't know yet if that's going to be, but they're posturing for that. The other 2 will be, especially the first one, will be a lot more counter-COVID friendly. There'll be a lot more airflow, and it won't be the plated mess dress, everybody inside the same room for hours at a time. That first one will not be that. The middle one is still in the planning stages, and we have maneuver space for that. So TBD is for the big event. So I hope that answers the second question. First question, relatively straightforward. Our defenders are at the gate to protect us all, and one of the ways our defenders protect us all is they verify identification. So you can have your mask up or down as you are in your vehicle driving on the installation. That is up to you. If a defender needs to see your face, they will ask you to remove your mask so that they can verify that. What does Matt Higer do when I drive through the gate? I have my mask off, and I make sure that I keep my interactions with the defenders relatively short. If I needed to go into the gate control or the visitor control center or something like that, I'm required to have my mask on me, right? And then I put it on if I'm in their facility or if I need to talk to a group of defenders outside at close proximity. So that's what I do. But the bottom line is, if you want to have it on, that's fine. If you need to lower it, the defender will ask. If you don't have it on, that's okay, as you roll down your window and present your ID. So thanks for the 2-parter. I hope I addressed him. If not, hit us again. So Chief, we'll go 2 more, and then we'll wish everybody a great weekend on this 27th of August, 2021. So what you got?
Yes, sir. So in the rare case that something horrible happens to an airman after taking the vaccination, where does it say that family left behind will be taken care of?
So the person asking the question is using the word horrible and left behind and as synonyms for fatality, right? I believe that's what the question is. Where is it written? I think is the basis of the question.
Right, and they even asked if the example would be SGLI, which I doubt that that's updated yet to reflect anything like this specifics. I don't know if it has. Specifics.
Right. So if someone has such a severe reaction to anything, there would be what's known as a line of duty determination that is performed. I don't want to predispose any line of duty determination because it is an actual determination based on the individual facts and circumstances around a specific event. But when those happen, there is a line of duty determination that happens that initiates with medical folks, and then it is approved usually at my level. But there's a couple other folks that weigh in on that. It would be, and then if the member, when they died, was found to be in the line of duty, then all benefits, including SGLI and other survivor benefits, would be immediately available to the survivors and the beneficiaries, no matter the cause of death. So the cause of death does not determine the line of duty determination. The line of duty determination does determine eligibility for beneficiaries after that. So I ask with kindness and I ask with respect that if you're concerned about you're an active duty member or you're a dependent of an active duty member and you're concerned about the risk of death, make sure that you have the right things in order, right? Make sure that your SGLI is updated. Like we literally recently had a fatality that affected a member of Team Edwards, and the surviving spouse wasn't named as the beneficiary on the deceased service member's SGLI, and the surviving spouse didn't know that. So that is something that I encourage you as the service member and the spouse, especially if you're mil-mil, make sure that you have all those pieces of paper and you update them occasionally. Your VRED is something that you can update, and make sure you have, if you have children or if you have any assets or both, make sure you have a will and make sure it's current. Make sure you have appropriate guardians picked for your children, and you should have that independent of the likely cause of death. And then let me address another thing that's implied in the question there from the viewer. Your spouse's, your active duty members' risk of death from a vaccine is lower than that same member's risk of death from riding on an airplane, driving to and from work, and depending on what their military profession is, it's probably less than the risk of death of dying on duty from other causes. And so is it zero? No, it's not zero. But it is much, much, much lower than many of the other risks that we all assume every day. And many of us assume risks that, well, many risks are assumed for us because of what we volunteer to do in service to our nation. And frankly, what we do as in service to our friends and our family. You know, in my command, in this current command, there have been a lot of fatalities here at Edwards. They've all been individual fatalities. I can authoritatively tell you that more people have died in motor vehicle accidents here than as a result of medical procedures. And the one that did die of from a medical procedure was an adverse reaction to an anesthetic. And so your chance of dying in an adverse reaction to anesthetic is much higher than from an inoculation. So there are a lot of things and a lot of risks that you assume every day that are higher than the risk of a catastrophic or a fatal reaction to a shot. Now, what is one potential reaction to a shot that could be fatal? It's anaphylactic shock, right? Why, when you get a shot or I get a shot or anybody gets a shot, do they say, please sit out in the waiting room for 15 minutes? Right? Well, that's because if you're going to have some type of a massive adverse reaction to any inoculation, the numbers say that at the 15-minute mark, if you aren't feeling anything, then you're good to go. Now, what do? I wait a good 20 because, a little bit better to be safe than sorry there, but that's what I do. And so in our vaccination clinic right now, in the Operation Max Vax point of distribution, there are more chairs in the waiting area than there are in the shot delivery area of that clinic because we want to make sure everybody waits their minimum of 15 minutes before they leave. If they have an anaphylactic response to that, the folks that are there are highly trained and highly skilled, and it is actually a very simple procedure to provide a treatment for that, and that has a very high success rate on being completely successful. So that's a comforting thing for me to know, and I have zero reservations in recommending folks get shots at our vaccination clinic, either the one in the main hospital or the Operation Max Vax. So the person that asked the question, I hope that addresses it, and if it doesn't, let us know what else we can address. So that was one. Good question, great question, and I appreciate the thought. What else you got, Chief?
So actually the last question is kind of shifting gears from COVID vaccinations, and the question is, has the wing thought about expanding school programs to include early childhood development to allow students to work in the CDC and annex and gain work experience and credits to help, with the potential lack of staff at either of those locations?
I love you, right? That question is exquisitely, it's beautiful, right? So what that person has done is an example of the agile and frankly the innovative thoughts that just pervade this place. It's in our culture, Chief. And what that person has done, I don't know how you got to this thought, so if you ever see me, tell me how you got there, because I would love to know. But what they've effectively done is they've taken what we observed and where we started this broadcast in a way of, hey, there's something unique at Edwards that we can do for high school students in the form of structural maintenance or aircraft maintenance or airframe and power plant that's only available here at Edwards. And it's a way to not just help the individual and the student, but also it's a way to build a stream of potential employees for the maintenance group, which is a challenge that we often have. But once folks get here, they love it and they love working it. And they've taken that idea and gone, wait a minute, where's another place that people could potentially work immediately out of high school on the installation to help the community, and also a place where maybe they're short on employees. And that place is in some of our child care facilities and locations. Now, there are rules and restrictions and all kinds of places, but that is a great thought. One that I'm pretty sure the CDC director right now is going, oh my gosh, boss, don't sign me up for that. So no guarantees and no promises. But I think there might be something there. And so viewer that wrote that in, thank you. I like it. I like it a lot. There'll certainly be some restrictions if you're not 18, but there might be some opportunity there. And I think that's worth looking into. Likelihood of success, I don't know, but it certainly ain't zero. So I like it, and what a great way to end this broadcast with a super innovative thought that solves problems for both the students in the CDC and the student themselves at high school, and also gives us a good cadre there at the Child and Youth Services flight. So, Chief, I know you got a lot of thoughts as always. I would appreciate learning from you as I always do when I hear what's on the top of your mind. So something that you want to share with the team on this Friday, and before we wish them a good weekend.
I would just say that there's quite a lot going on, and talking with the different forums, getting their feedback and their thoughts, has taught me a lot. And so I look forward to sitting down with you to kind of bring up some of those concerns and then be able to then give that back to the airmen as a status update or a progress check, so that the transparency is there for people who are concerned about things that are impacting the base. I would, and one of those is suicide, and so I would like to take this opportunity to just kind of plug the event that's coming up 1 September to talk about suicide prevention, where you and I will be present. We'll have guest speakers there, and this is yet another one of those things that just kind of is on a continual basis of discussion, and just let everybody know that'll be available to them. And so that would be the one thing.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that up, Chief. It's 1 September. There are 2 sessions. It's not the same thing twice. It's I think the first session, don't quote me on that, I think it's at 1500 in the base theater.
That's correct.
Runs about an hour. It'll be kind of a panel discussion that Chief and I will be sitting on, along with a couple experts that we're bringing in. It's sponsored and hosted by Julie Wilbanks, our exceptional community services coordinator. Julie's another rock star, kind of like Alita that was here, and Nate Dixon, that we are so blessed and privileged to have in our community and on our team sponsoring that. So it'll be kind of a panel discussion at 3. And then the kind of a keynote speaker address at 1800, also in the base theater. So if you can make it to both those hours, I think you'll find it highly beneficial. No joke, that's a tough topic, and unfortunately, one of the things about that topic is if you talk about it, sometimes that could be the straw or the rock or the pebble. So I'm mindful of that, but I don't think the right answer is not addressing it head on. And really figuring out ways to dial it back or get after it is really important. So thanks for bringing that up, Chief. And that is not always forefront of mind, but it's never far.
Yes, sir. And just to add on, with that being said, I just want everybody to know how dialed in we are and how much it concerns us, how much we care, if you will, about their mental state and whatever they might be going through. And we are actively working to pursue something that will basically address that and help with that. So I want everybody to know that as soon as we can put something together, we will definitely get another forum or have something on the town hall to just kind of let them know where we are.
We'll keep you posted, as we always do. And if you need an update on it, ask. We'll happily provide it in any forum that you can find us in. So let me that's my thought here, a couple forums. So this is a forum. Every duty Friday, 1300. If I can chair it, I always do. If Dee can be here with me, she always is. Chief, I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate you being on my wing too. If it's not one of us, then we have another member of the leadership team here to host. That's often Colonel Gordon when I can't be here. But it's always open and available, and it's public. In the not too distant future, or sneak peek, we're going to have one app to rule them all. Max is super excited about that, brother. I hope you got my inputs. I love being a tester, including a beta tester of your product. So that's something that we'll have in the future that we can talk about at this forum. So that's one. Another one that's never broadcast, and it is a very small forum, but it's Hard Talks. And Hard Talks is the title of a venue and a forum at Chapel 1 Annex. It is every duty Thursday. It starts at 1500. It never runs shorter than an hour, and sometimes it can run significantly longer than an hour. There's always a member of senior leadership, installation senior leadership there. There's always a chaplain there, and there's always a member of the DEI team, the DEI office, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion office. That is often the director, Mr. J.D. Daly, but one of his team is always there. So you always have at least the three of us there to host. Generally, we restrict the size to 10-ish or less for a couple of reasons. One, COVID, but second, they're hard talks because there's a lot of things that folks bring there to get off their chest or to get out in the open or to get to our attention or our awareness. And we allow them to have that safe place and that safe space. The senior leader that's there will to the utmost of their ability, listen in a non-attributional way. There are certain things that we are legally obligated to attribute, but if it isn't something that we're obligated to attribute, we are going to respect the attendees' requests for anonymity. And I think we've done an exceptional job of that. But often there are some, I'm not going to lie, Chief, you were there yesterday. There are some heartbreaking and gut-wrenching things that I have learned or observed through the eyes or the lives lived of some of the airmen and guardians on this base. And that forum is a place for you to come talk about it. And if it's part of your healing process, great. I'm glad we're there for you. If it's part of an awareness thing that you want to bring to our attention, that's a way you can do it. But it's there. It's available every duty Thursday, 1500 at the Chapel 1 Annex. Chaplain Jay Clark is kind of the facilitator, the coordinator. So if there are a limited number of spaces, if you want to reserve a seat, get a hold of him, and he'll make sure he gets you into one where there's room. But in both of these forums, so the one we're in now and Hard Talks and others, right? You catch us in the comms, you catch the BX, you catch us around the base. We want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. We want to know, what are we doing good, bad, ugly, and indifferent, right? We want to know. But one of the things you're going to hear from Chief, and you're going to hear from me, and you should hear from any senior leader that you bring a topic to, is that if it's something that for example, I'm gonna do a complete hypothetical here. Why is the Oasis pool not open at 2200 hours on Saturday night for lap swim? It should be. It should be open. Well, candidly, if you're the person that brings me that, and that's somewhat of an out to lunch, but that's an example. If you bring that to me, I'm not going to commit to you in that conversation. I hear you, and I'm going to fix that, right? Because maybe that's not the best use of our resource, but also I'm going to first ask you, well, have you highlighted that to the Oasis pool? Or if I take it from you, I'm going to hand it off to the Oasis pool and say, I got this from this person. Please work with them and see if we can meet their needs. But I'm not going to direct the Oasis pool to open just because you talked to us, right? So if you have, I'm going to ask you, have you talked to the Oasis pool? And if you have, yes. Well, what about the flight chief? What about the FSS? We're going to ask, have you engaged at the lowest tactical level possible? And if you haven't, that's okay that you brought it to our attention, but that's where we're going to go first, not in a directive way, but just to relay your message. So, and you're going to find folks at those points of service or points of distribution much easier than you're going to find us unless it's in one of these forums. So I encourage you to be a demanding customer and talk to those folks directly. If you need to jump the chain of command, then by all means, jump the chain of command. But recognize the real solutions don't happen because I direct it or Colonel Gordon directs it or Chief directs it or Colonel Manning directs it or Mr. Osborne directs it. The real solutions happen because we put the person that needs something in contact with the person that can potentially solve them or help solve that problem for it. and they figured out without our influence and without our directive. The value that we bring as leadership is, as all these tactical things are highlighted to us, we look for higher level ways that we can move multiple things at multiple times and not specifically individual tactical issues, right? So bring us everything. But if you can address it at a lower level and then let us know your contact went great with FSS or your contact went great with AAFES, I'd love to hear about that. And then I'll commend you for dealing with them direct. And then I'll commend you twice for letting us know, and we'll brag on them together. Because there are a lot of awesome people working at those levels that would love to get your demanding customer inputs and demanding customer feedback. Demanding is not being a jerk, folks. Demanding is being a partner, a contributor, knowing that we're all in this together for the long haul, many of us for years. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your inputs. I appreciate your thoughts. But I also appreciate you knowing how the organization works and how it's structured, and knowing how we can be most efficient and effective, but efficient too with time. And the most valuable time is yours. So we want to be respectful of that too. And given that, I'm way over. And I know that the PA team has been giving me the "come on, boss" cut off for a little while now. You guys are awesome. Yes. And thanks for hanging. Thanks for setting up here today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, what you see behind me is not a picture. We're not in a green room. We're actually in Building 1600 in one of the shops. And it was a great announcement. So if you didn't see that, go back and watch. It's definitely worth the first 15 minutes of the show today. I'll sign off by wishing you a healthy, safe, and enjoyable weekend. Remember that